Miraculous? Miraculous? Man, we write some good headline around here. I say that, by the way, that's the title of today's show, Miraculous Comeback, or Miraculous. Not sure where to put the accent on the right syllable on this one. I say that as the person that consistently, year after year, writes the worst headlines. I am awful at it. So Zach, I jest, knowing full well that I could not do better. That doesn't make me a very good person. I'm just taking cheap shots at you, knowing that if you said, Jeff, come up with the title of today's show, it would be the most boring thing in the world.
So I was looking for...
I know what you were looking for. A way to say that Miro Heiskanen is back for the Dallas Stars, and it's a comeback, and you wanted to play have a little clever pun and a little play on words. So now I'm curious in your head here. Yeah. Hi, welcome to the show, by the way. As I get totally self-indulgent. We'll just call the show, oh, look, there's my navel. As I totally get self-indulgent about today's program and what Zach has decided to name it. In your head, is it pronounced Miraculous? How is it? How does it? I can't even think of the right phraseology here. How does it sound in your head? What is that?
Doing it was Miraculous.
Miraculous.
Like miraculous.
Yes.
Miraculous. Miraculous. Instead of the A, the O, and the Miraculous, and going with that. This one is way better than the alternative that I was.
Which is?
You know, when you come up with something, you're like, I'm stuck on this and I can't go past it. And then finally, Miraculous came to me. As bad as that one is, I was this close to Miro on the wall, and was like, I don't know.
Miro on the ice. You could have gone with. Would that have been better?
That was better. It's so bad, but it was better. I wish I thought of that. All I could think about was Miro on the wall. I'm like, how do I get this to make sense? And then I came up with Miraculous, and I was like, okay, I guess that's the one.
You give good headline. I could give good headache to a lot of people. And we'll get to all of it coming up on the program today. Welcome to the program. Thanks to everyone joining us live on YouTube or in the chat as well, which briefly was for subscribers only. We should pull the curtain back a little bit. Zach was kind of trying to flex a little bit today. He said, chat's only for subscribers. Oh, come on, man. Be a buddy. Times are tough, man. It's hard out there. People want to chat. Just let them chat. Let them get their cheap shots. We're going to talk about cheap shots today, by the way. Get your cheap shots in. Get your comments in. Get all of them in. Don't worry about it. Everything's good. I do have an interesting theory on Corey Perry. That's coming up in moments on the program. In the meantime, let's get to what's on the program today. Daily Outline, powered as always by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sports book. That's FanDuel, folks. I'm curious what our Tuesday staple is going to think of my theory about Corey Perry today. I think he might like it. That is, of course, Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. We'll talk about the latest right now with Doug Sifu, minority owner of the Florida Panthers. That's coming up in a couple of seconds. We'll talk about the Edmonton Oilers. We don't need great goaltending. We just need goaltending, and we'll be just fine. Carolina Hurricanes are on the verge of another gentleman's sweep and tucking themselves away to rest for a few days before the conference final. They now lead the Washington Capitals 3-1. Did you know that Miro Heiskanen is returning here? That is Miraculous. That is Miro on the ice. Okay, I'll stop now. Tonight's games, by the way, should be tonight's game. To be more specific, as we say in the Atlantic, not that I want to get grammatical on you, but there's only one game tonight. That is not plural, and more on coaches as well. I feel like I've backed the truck up a couple of different times on you already today, Zach. And I want to say that I apologize, but I don't. It's just one of those days.
I don't need you to.
It's just one of those days.
Yeah.
No.
It's fair.
All right. Well, this next segment, it's going to be a lengthy one, and there's a lot we're going to get into, and this segment is brought to you by Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for the playoffs, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. Phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year. Make them count. When it's springtime, it's Go time. With that, we bring aboard our Tuesday staple. It is MVSW time once again here on the program. Had a rare one on Sunday. That was a lot of fun. He is from ESPN. He is Greg Wyshynski. He joins me now. Miroculous, Miro on the wall, Miro on the ice. You've been at this game a lot longer than we have. That is, namely, writing headlines. How would you have captured today's program with the big news of the return of Miro Heiskanen for the Dallas Stars?
Hey, Marek, it's Ace. Hey, Chet. Ace here.
It won't stop. It won't stop.
I do think you've been a little mean to Zach. Like, I don't think he's.
I don't like doing that.
I have got a note here from a Jay Merrick. It says, Zach, you're fired. Oh no, he's gone too far, ladies and gentlemen.
No, you know what?
Criticisms of his producer.
Yeah, hang on. It's kind of a tired bit. I hate doing it, like the yell at your producer. Oh, idiot producer did this. I've always just found that it's just, I don't know. It's become such a trope in media to yell at the behind the scenes guy that has the nerve to put everything together and does the actual heavy lifting for the program, that I try to stay away from it. But man, like today was, low hanging juicy fruit.
He's got a really hard job, not only dealing with you, but also trying to figure out YouTube. And so, like, I say this as Ardo, Cal, and I did the show The Drop on YouTube twice a week for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I stressed every single week about the numbers because I didn't know the algorithm. I didn't know, like, the SEO of the headline. And so to me, it's like, I would say to the producers, like, just call every episode Sidney Crosby boobs, Mr. Beast, 10 ways to
whatever's going to get headlines. So we're just shameless.
Have it in the algorithm because it's all a dumb fake thing. So when I saw the name of the show, my first thought was, oh God, is Zach going to cost the show traffic? But then I said to myself, none of it matters. It's all a bizarre collection of ones and twos and zeros, and we don't know what the hell's happening under the hood. Yeah. So it's great. To me, I guess the point of that story, Marek, is like, I'm all now for puns and creativity in these headlines instead of trying to play to the cheap seats.
Yeah. Zach.
But Miro on the ice is great, by the way. That would be the one I would have chosen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See? Now, Zach, by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm writing the headlines from now on. I want none of the responsibility. I just want to be the guy that throws darts. That's it. I just want to talk shit from the back seat, and that's all. That's all I want to do here, Zach. You still do the heavy.
Can I ask you about
no problem.
The Heiskanen thing's so interesting to me. I feel like every postseason,
yeah,
there's one of these guys, and it just, maybe it's because it's the series that I'm on or whatever, where every single day it's how close is he? And then it's like, he's real close. He's getting closer. He doesn't play. And then we're like, what is he doing? And like, he's at the optional skate. Is he going to play? Nah, he's not ready to play yet. And then we get to the next game. You're like, is he going to play? And they're like, yes, tonight he will play. If he gets through the morning skate, he will play. And you're all like, all right, he is back. I remember doing this with Steven Stamkos one year with the Lightning. I feel like there was probably a guy in the Golden Knights that was the case. Like, it seems like every year there's one injured guy, and it just becomes a daily deluge of, he took the optional, but he's not taking the optional tomorrow. And is he okay to play? And will he play? If he plays, will there be 11 forwards and 7? Who's to say? And it's Heiskanen for some reason this season.
I just look at it as part of the marketing of that game. And again, like, let's not forget too, come playoff time, you know what kind of information you get from teams about things as specific as injuries? Zero. And that's fine.
Right.
But people have columns to file and tweets to send off and attention to try to capture. So any tiny little morsel, any crumb of information is big news. But I've always said, like for a team like Toronto, which is like, there are no small stories. There are no Toronto, Montreal, like the biggies, New York. Like, there are no small stories, and as much as markets may snicker at that, that's what you want to get to. You want to get to a place with your organization where there's no such thing as a small story. Like a fourth liner, we're going to determine whether he's in or not based on the pregame skate. Like, for that to be a major, if that's a major news story in your market, you're doing really, really well. Like, I've always said this about Toronto. Is there too much information out there about the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yes. And what the Toronto Maple Leafs fans want? Too much information. They do not want to push back from the buffet table. Just more plate after plate, plate after plate. And that's why you catch any other organization in a moment of candor, they'll tell you the same thing. That's what we want here. That's what we want here.
Because that's the moment players stop signing with you, because they're like, there's too much scrutiny, there's too much attention. I hate it. I want to go play in Anaheim.
Why is it like that in hockey but not other sports? What is it about hockey players where you hear the definite, I'm shying away from the big stage, whereas other sports, like that's all anyone could race to. Baseball, basketball, football, that's all other players can race to. But for hockey, for some reason, I just want to go somewhere quieter. I can wear shorts and flops. I can go to the mall. No one knows who I am. They might think I'm a football player after all.
So my only theory on that, because I've thought about it for a long time vis-a-vis places like Toronto, which, by the way, guys are signing in, and and guys will continue to sign there this summer. But in hockey, because of the sport's place in the United States, like the quiet places for hockey are some really great. Like a quiet place for hockey is Miami. Like a quiet place for hockey is Dallas, Texas. Like a quiet place for hockey is Disneyland. Or Los Angeles for that matter. I mean, or San Jose for that matter. So like the idea that you can go to a number of different places that are extremely desirable locales, and it's the quiet place vis-a-vis what you experience in Montreal or Toronto, I think is something unique to hockey to answer your question.
The poll, by the way, going on right now, and the leader is Incredible Title. I don't know how many times Zach can vote on this. Is how do you feel about Miraculous Comeback? 33% saying Incredible Title. I didn't know Zach had that many family members watching the program right now, but now I have a pretty good idea.
I assume based on Zach's age, this is a reference to Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir, one of my daughter's favorite cartoons growing up. I'm sure it had a big influence on Zach as well.
Well, I don't know what language you're speaking. This is Portuguese.
It's a cartoon about a girl who has a miraculous ladybug who gives her powers and she becomes a superhero. Everyone knows this, Merrick. Come on.
Left-hand shot or right-hand shot? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. Not familiar with this.
What's funny is that you playing dumb
junior?
about an obscure. You playing dumb about an obscure children's cartoon is the same playing dumb that you do for like 90% of the pop culture that comes up on the show, and it's genuine, which is great about you. That's the great thing about you.
No, I'm entertainment outsider. Entertainment outsider, Jeff Merrick, here to be confused about everything that Greg Wyshynski says about anything that doesn't involve puck. Now, let me talk to you about something that doesn't involve puck. This is something that involves tweets, and Doug Sifu, who is now he's a minority owner of the Florida Panthers. He came in when Vinny Viola bought the team, has now been suspended for misconduct on the social media app X, formerly known as Twitter, going back at a fan and referencing 51st State, which I suspect is the one that got him in trouble more than accusing him of being an anti-Semite. But nonetheless, it was a pretty forceful exchange that a minority NHL owner had with a fan. And I've always been reminded of a conversation that I overheard with someone, I don't know how to phrase this, in a position of power with the team, where someone said to this person bluntly, as this person was complaining about someone else's social media behavior, a fan directed at this person, the comment was, yeah, that's what the money's for. Like, I always look at, like, let me take a little side car here on this, little side trip on this one here. Gary Bettman every year at the NHL, when at the Stanley Cup final, when he hands out the award, he gets soundly booed. And the one thing that I've always
the award
respected,
being the Stanley Cup, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah. The award being the Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup, yeah. When he awards the Stanley Cup, he gets soundly booed. And he's never even contemplated not doing it because, one, that's what his predecessors have always done. That is a long-standing tradition. And I think in his mind, too, part of that is, yeah, that's what the money's for. Like, you're going to get criticized. That's what the position's for, and this is what happens in the position. I always think about my favorite line from The Godfather. This is the business we chose. Like, this comes along with it. And there's some people in certain positions that shouldn't fire back the way they do.
to tie back into Merrick's pop culture blind spots, doesn't even realize that the team executive he's speaking about is quoting Don Draper from Mad Men. Secondly, I think it's probably the string of words that Doug Sifu put together, quote, eat shit, 51st state, anti-Semite loser. That probably gets you on the NHL's radar, that string of words. I will say this. I don't know if people have seen it because it not everybody is reading Florida Hockey Now, but I asked the Panthers for if they had put out a statement at all about the NHL deciding to suspend Doug Sifu from the team basically and from the league basically. And they pointed to Florida Hockey Now as the place to find the statement. So here we go. Doug Sifu's statement. 2 days ago, I posted regrettable and inflammatory comments on social media. Boy, howdy, did you? My behavior does not reflect the standards of the Florida Panthers, okay, organization, and the Viola family. Okay. I sincerely apologize to all those affected by my comments. I am committed to working with the NHL to amend my actions. There's some things I disagree with in there as far as his characterization of philosophies, but the point being is that he regrets it. He's going to work with the NHL to amend his actions, and I do wonder what the ultimate, end result here is. Like, are they going to have him give up his stake in the team? I imagine he probably will lose his alternate governorship of the team by as some sort of level of punishment for all of this. But again, I'll say this about the NHL: real swift action here. And I spoke with somebody at the league earlier this morning about this story, and I said, sometimes you are surprised by the reaction to the league in a positive or negative way when things occur like this. And the majority of fans and fan reaction that I've seen has been like, go, you go, girl. like go NHL. Yeah. Like where is this level of swift action on other things? So I think they really they made an example of the guy, and I think that they scored some points for it.
So I'm always aware of, and I always try to think of and keep front of my brain one fact about Gary Bettman's job. Gary Bettman, essentially, I've been reminded so many different times. And most recently, having a lunch, actually, with an owner of an NHL team who reminded me of it again and agreed when I said this. Gary Bettman has one job, and this informs me. Like, once I really understood this, a lot more of the NHL's actions and behavior makes a lot of sense. Gary Bettman has one job. He's always had one job, going back to 1993. Raise franchise values. Some things are directly related to raising franchise values. Some are indirectly related to raising franchise values. And as I looked at this comment from Sifu and how the NHL might react, the first thing that I thought in my head was Gary Bettman's number one job, which has always been in front of his head, is this raising franchise values or diminishing franchise values? This is not raising franchise values. This is doing nothing for the value of the Florida Panthers whatsoever. If anything, it is lowering the value, albeit small, but nonetheless, lowering the value of the Florida Panthers and this type of behavior. Again, I would imagine one of the questions that will be asked by the commissioner is, why? Going back to Gary Bettman getting booed every year when he presents the Stanley Cup. That's what the money is for, right? You get paid very well. People will boo you once a year, and it's an annual tradition that presidents before him have done. Like, why? I know we've all fired things off. I know we've all and like 2 seconds later, like, oh God.
On
I mean,
Twitter?
you used to be. I used to love it. It was
true at
honestly
all.
my favorite show every single night. Was Greg Wyshynski on Twitter. What are you watching tonight? Greg Wyshynski on Twitter. It was my favorite show.
Yeah.
I freaking loved
Are
it.
you
It was
trying to say that
amazing.
I used to be so mean to the sheet guest Pierre McGuire on social media that my bosses at Yahoo said stop tweeting about Pierre McGuire? I mean, it's possible that happened. You mentioned this before, and I don't want to talk about the Sifu thing the whole time we're doing this, but I do want to mention this. Like, you mentioned the 51st state thing as maybe being the trigger. And
That's a big one.
And I do
That's a
think that
huge
the
one.
overall, I mean, I think the third rail of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and all that stuff, they don't want the owners,
They don't want that.
using that as a taunt against fans.
No.
But I'll say this about your 51st state theory. I'm in Dallas. We were in Dallas. I was in Dallas Sunday when we did the show. I'm in Dallas for game 3.
Yeah.
It's Winnipeg and Dallas. And I hear, "Oh, Canada played," and not a single peep, not a single boo or jeer or sneer or sneeze. And then, obviously the Star Spangled Banner plays and everybody's cheering and screaming out stars and whatever. But it got me thinking how much distance we've had from the unpleasantness that surrounded Four Nations to now. And probably when you have a series that is the emotional powder keg that the Panthers and Maple Leafs are right now, the last thing you do is want to spark the flame of anthem booing again.
No.
Which having the minority owner of the Florida Panthers evoking the 51st state could easily do in this series, right?
Yeah. And that's what the Four Nations, again, like you and I have talked about this when it was happening. The reaction from Canadians towards the U.S. national anthem was a lot more nuanced just than Canada's better than the United States or we hate the United States. Canadians don't hate the United States. Canadians don't hate Americans. They hate a number of policies of this administration. They hate the whole, they can't stand the talk of 51st state. The tariff thing, considering how long we've been economic partners, really offended a lot of Canadians. And that's what that was a reaction to. That wasn't a we hate the United States reaction. Right. That wasn't. And again, like to your point about 51st state, it's gone away and it's really nice. No one boos the U.S. national anthem anymore in Canadian rinks. They don't. And it's a lot nicer that way. It's really good. Everything is calmed down. Everyone is playing nice here. The last thing, to your point, that you want to do is throw a log on that fire at this point.
The last thing you want to do now is throw a log on that fire. It was useful around Four Nations and helped create that enormous success that was that tournament. It will be useful again next year in 2026 before the Olympics. Like it serves its purpose to fuel the rivalry between our nations, but it sure as shit doesn't have a place in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Things are going good. Goals are up. Chaos is happening. So big series are entertaining. The last thing you want is to have, Newsmax covering the Stanley Cup playoffs because someone in Toronto decided to throw an American flag on the ice or something during the anthem. You don't want that.
You know what I've always wondered? I don't think I've ever asked a player this, but I would really, because I was in Sunrise over the weekend, and Friday night specifically, Florida Panthers are having an incredible second period. Holy smokes! They erased the 3-1 deficit. It's it's the best period of hockey we've seen the Florida Panthers play all season, and they start chanting USA, USA, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Matthew Nyes or Austin Matthews or Jake McKay, what am I thinking right now? Are they chanting my country's name against my team? What happens to you as an athlete when they're chanting your anthem to try to offend you as a member of the other team? You know what I mean?
They did the same thing in Dallas. And the top line in Dallas is three guys that should be in a restaurant in Helsinki having reindeer sausage.
Connor Hellebuck.
What are you doing chanting USA for?
I want to get to hate. By the way, does he do it? Does Pete DeBoer do it?
Put Miro back in, or do the whole Finn starting lineup?
The finish 5.
You might as well, right? Have a little fun with it.
Make history. It makes history.
Miro coming back is an interesting, because I think we talked about it on Sunday, the idea of using him as the turbo boost of emotion at the right time. Yeah. And to me, that's Pete saying, we got a chance to put the hammer down in this series now in Game 4. So you might as well unleash the beast in Game 4. I will be curious if they go 7-11. It sounds like they will, and it sounds like they will because Pete has had no problem double shifting Rantanen in this series. Rantanen is a guy he said gets better the more you play him, so you might as well double shift him.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they'll end up doing. And he has tallied points in this series not playing with Granlund and Hintz, and playing with Sam Steele down the lineup. So they're in a good spot. Man, I'll tell you right now, we'll get to the other series in a second. And due respect to Winnipeg and due respect to Vegas. Vegas, I think, is cooked, but Winnipeg could easily win tonight and then make it a real series with the way they played at home. But what a heavyweight slobber knocker we might be in for with Dallas and Edmonton.
Edmonton.
My God.
I know.
I mean, that's kind of what we all want at this point, right? Like, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Oh, it would be a tremendous series. Like right now, and I'm going to get to Edmonton here within a couple of seconds, but this is a team that's completely hit its stride. And Stuart Skinner just threw a shutout at the Vegas Golden Knights. And again, it's not a team we've seen before. Like, it's not a team that needs great goaltending to win, and it might be the only team in the playoffs right now that can score their way out of trouble, which is a horrible philosophy to run on. Oh, don't worry about what happens back there. We'll just score 2. But like, of any team in the playoffs, you're like, Edmonton can do that. Like, if this one lines up that it's going to be Edmonton and the Dallas Stars here, this could be one for the ages, which is why if you're either team, you want to wrap this one up fast. Just like if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, you need to win this next game so you can have 2 gentlemen sweeps back to back and rest and let Florida, Toronto just knock the crap out of one another. But I'm with you, like Dallas, Edmonton. Yeah, I'd like 7 games of that. I'll take 7.
What do you think has happened to the Vegas top offensive players?
They haven't looked good. Honestly, they haven't looked. I don't think that they've really looked good. Like, there haven't been long enough stretches where they've looked good. Even going back to the Minnesota series, like even going into the series against Edmonton, like, okay, we're waiting now for because coming out of the first round series, I'm like, yeah, Jack Eichel's played good, but I still want to see more from Jack Eichel. I don't think that they've played a complete game, like a fully complete game yet, these playoffs. And I think Edmonton's interesting because they had that scare against the Los Angeles Kings. And you ever see that documentary Scared Straight where they take kids to prison?
Of course I have.
Of course you have.
That and Catholicism kept me on the straight and narrow when I was a child.
So I wonder if that was like the first two games of the LA series was the equivalent of taking kids to prison and scared them straight. And because now they're terrified to lose a hockey game, and they're on a completely different level here. Now it helped getting again, like Evander Kane comes back. Yeah, okay, I get it. Like a lot of other good things have happened here. But I think that was the good scare that was thrown in early that allowed the Edmonton Oilers, like, put it this way, when that happens to you, in one sense, it's the best thing for a coach because now Knoblauch has all of their attention. This is what I've been trying to say to you guys. This is what I've been trying to tell you. And now we're down to Bagel. You going to do it my way? Let's do it my way.
And like you said, the scary thing about them is that they've gotten better. I mean, they're playing as well defensively as they played last year when they went on the run to the final. The way their supporting cast is carrying the load on nights when Connor and Leon don't necessarily have to put up 5 points apiece. That's frightening. The fact that they've had competent goaltending more often than not in the playoffs. And like you said, that's all you need. You just need replacement level goaltending in back of that team, especially when they're defending well as a team. So they are really hitting their stride in a way that I did not expect them to. I mean, I expected them to get past the Kings. I picked them in this Vegas series, but they look much better than I thought they'd look at this point in the playoffs.
Honestly, I'm shocked 'cause I did not pick them against the Los Angeles Kings because outside of like one stretch in December, they haven't looked great at all. Like, I'm gonna keep like, oh, don't worry, they'll turn it on. They'll turn it on.
Guys, put you. Oh, 4 times a charm. Oh, I've been baited into picking against Connor and Leon against the Los Angeles Kings. Come on, I always had that.
You want it ready for Jeffy theory time?
Please.
For Jeffy story time. You want to do Jeffy theory time?
I love Jeffy theory time.
The only way we get Corey Perry to retire is if he wins the Stanley Cup. Because here's my theory. Here's my theory that if the Oilers win the Stanley Cup, Corey Perry will retire. Because he wants this might be just like the ultimate troll job for all of his haters. The last picture of Corey Perry in the NHL is him holding the Stanley Cup. He is not doing this for the money. Clearly.
No.
He is not doing this. He can he can still play. B, he's smart enough to play anywhere from the top line to the fourth line and we've seen him do both in this series. He's never been a super fast hockey player, but he's a really smart hockey player. He's won everything. He's going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's a complete layup. I think that Corey Perry wants his closing act to be the Stanley Cup. And when he gets it, he'll say to himself, that's how I want to retire. Last picture, me holding the cup. And for the first time, they're saying this on Morning Cup of Hockey today.
Time at home, he's like, I don't want to ever be at home. I just want to keep doing hockey things for the rest of my life. That's what I start thinking of when I think of these guys playing this deep into their career. No, I think
he's already made a ton of bank. I'm just thinking like that's how if he has honestly think about it, if it was you, and I was trying to personalize this for myself, like, well, would I be this way? And the answer is yeah. If you have a shot at making a closing act the Stanley Cup, the minute you win it, do you not say to yourself, that's the way I got to go out? Because he's not doing it again. Not doing it for the money. Not at all.
It's hard for me to envision that as a writer, though, because the great thing about being a writer is that I can keep doing it until I'm Stan Fischler's age, where I could be like 107 years old and just going on social media being like, Iggy Piggy doesn't deserve the money. And I'm like, yes, I still got it.
Let me tell you about Max Bentley. I know. Sounds like me.
No, I think you're right. Although I do love the idea of him not winning and continuing to, walk across the NHL post-apocalyptic landscape like a paladin, going from team to team, offering his services to see if they can maybe
David Carradine.
Yeah, unlock it for him to win a cup. But he's been great. We talked about this on Sunday. Like the idea that he's playing top line minutes and doing as well as he has is just incredible.
Awesome.
And do you think that this sort of Swiss Army knife, savvy veteran postscript to his career made him a Hall of Famer? The longevity of it all, or do you think he already was?
Already, he's won everywhere he's gone. Going back to junior hockey, like everywhere Corey Perry goes, championships follow. He's won them all. He's like honestly, even before I have appreciated this chase here at the end. It really has been a lot of fun, and I'll miss him. Here I are writing the obituary for Corey Perry in the NHL, and they haven't even taken care of the Vegas Golden Knights in round 2. And I'm just sort of getting ahead of myself here and just thinking. I was having a conversation with someone this morning, saying like, is this the only way Corey Perry would retire? And if the Oilers do win the Stanley Cup, is that enough for Corey Perry to say, okay, that's the way I want to end it? And then by extension, to my earlier point, is that his like ultimate FU to all the Corey Perry haters? It really would be a great way to go.
1392 games played, 448 goals, 480 assists, 935 points, sitting at 1,000. Has there ever been a player that should have been a Florida Panther that wasn't more than Corey Perry, by the way?
Oh, just a nasty. That's a great question. Florida's hard.
Like it was Marchand's manifest destiny to play for the Panthers. I feel like Corey Perry should have gotten there at some point too.
Tried to get all of them. Well, listen, they didn't have the Florida Panthers when Ken Linsman played, whose nickname was actually the Rat. He would have been the ultimate perfect player for the Florida Panthers. Yeah, that team was kind of made for him. Skill, nastiness, attitude.
But what you just said is my dad taught me everything about like hockey fandom, right? So he was a fan of the Islanders dynasty, and then therefore knew a lot about the Oilers dynasty. Mm-hmm. And so Ken Linsman was a very sort of instructive player for me because my dad taught me, look, this team with Gretzky and Messier and Curry and all these guys,
Coffee.
They needed a guy named the Rat on the team too. That's part of the chemistry. That's part of the alchemy of a championship team is having a guy named the Rat on the roster along with Wayne Gretzky.
And they also had a healthy dose of muscle around too. Like, let's not forget that, but that was indicative of the entire era. Like, I'm sure your dad was in love with Clark Gillies. Your dad was in love with Gary Howitt, and your dad was in love with Bob Nystrom. Like, that's what I love.
Insane Clark Gillies fan. Yeah.
As Jethro was incredible. I mean, he was the king until Ben Wilson came along. But until then, he was the king, and you never mess with Jethro. But that was it.
I went to Clark Gillies' induction weekend at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and to this day I'll defend it because, I mean, not me going, but defending him being in the Hall of Fame. I can really go wherever I want. Yeah. But I mean, the idea that you have specialization of the Hall of Fame, of honoring the best to do what someone does, the best in a role.
Oh,
Like the
don't even get
Football
me
Hall of
started.
Fame, it does
Don't
not.
even get me started.
The Football Hall of Fame is not like we can't put this punter in because he's not as good as Tom Brady.
I know.
Like the punter's the best punter, the enforcer's the best enforcer. Like the idea that you can be a bit more specialized in the Hockey Hall of Fame if you're going to be as inclusive as they are. And for me, I'd induct like 5 guys a generation. But as long as we're going to induct all these people all these years, the idea of doing specialization and honoring someone like Clark Gillies is something I've never had a problem with.
The defensive defenseman. You've heard me go
Yeah.
on and lament the fact, and I was happy they put like Kevin Lowe in there, but we think of it's like Rod Langway was like the guy. Look, we put defensive defenseman in. Look at Rod Langway after all. Anybody else?
Yeah, there's one.
Again, you've heard me talk about Adam Foote, and and that's going to dovetail into a conversation somewhere down the road about Jacob Slavin. To the Hockey Hall of Fame, like all of a sudden you start to your point about so rewarding specialization. Yeah, defensive defenseman. People had the nerve to defend in their own zone.
Let's talk about Slavin and his boys for a second, because I feel like every time we do the show, we always forget to talk about Washington, Carolina. Which, by the way, again, like I hate that there's one series that's the butt of everybody's jokes. But it happens, and it's this series, and it's not been the most scintillating thing I say as I prepare to go to Game 5 in DC on Thursday. But I really loved the moment last night in Rod Brindamore's press conference where Corey Laviolette asked him about the idea that other cities are looking at the box scores, they're looking at Carolina, and they're just like, you guys are just like shot attempt merchants. I think all you do is just pump shots on goal, and that's all you are, and there's nothing really interesting about that. And he's like, what do you think about that? And Rod's like, it's lazy. He's like, it's like a lazy take about my team. And then he nodded at the nuance that goes into their system beyond the shot attempts. Like there's a method to their madness, and it'd be interesting to pick Rod's brain more on that subject. But rare is the moment where he gets like pissy or snippy in defending the virtue of his team. And last night was an interesting one. Last night was just like, what a lazy take to think that all we do is shoot the puck. I like that. I want more pushback from Carolina. Their fans are the ones always pushing back about the virtue of the team and the inherent excitement. It reminds me of when I was a Devils fan in the 1990s, like pushing back on the trap years and saying, no, you see, defense is a road to offense. And that's exciting, isn't it? And everybody else in the league being like, shoo, 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 as they're watching the Devils. Like, I want Carolina players and coaches to be the ones pushing back on all these narratives that the fans usually have to handle.
Okay. The trap is nothing new in the NHL. Not that I'm saying the Carolina Hurricanes play trap. They play man-on-man, and there are a lot of subtleties to the game and nuance in the game that doesn't make it the track meet that a lot of hockey fans want it to be. Trap goes back to like Hap Day with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And here's another thing that Maple Leafs fans will never tell you. Here's something that Maple Leafs fans will never tell you because they were just enjoying the winning. And again, to your point, Greg, you're a Devils fan. You're winning. You don't care. I've talked to Carolina fans who are like, I don't care how they do it. We're winning hockey games. And those are the people that are buying your tickets and purchasing your jerseys and supporting the Carolina Hurricanes. Here's something that Maple Leafs fans will never admit to you. As much as they love that 1993 team that came oh so close against the Los Angeles Kings to get into the final against the Montreal Canadiens, it was a trap team.
Those bastards.
That was a trap
ruining hockey
team. All they would do is just
hockey.
knock down pucks, and here we go again in the neutral zone. That was a trap team. Maple Leafs fans like to remember it different. So Dougie and 100 points, and Wendell's fighting guys, and all these things, and Andrew Trucks. It was a trap hockey team. I hate to bring it up, folks, but it was a trap team. The guys would just laugh watching the transitions in the neutral zone.
I do have one beef with Carolina.
What's that?
Look, I'm not saying that I wanted the Washington Capitals to score on the power play, though it is very exciting to see, Alex Ovechkin score on the power play, which we did see last night on a 5-on-3. But the Caps had a 4-minute power play. I think it was like late in the first period against Carolina. And again, I'm not saying I want them to score, but power plays are fun. And I love seeing teams whip the puck around, and I love seeing those moments of danger. I love seeing plays get set up and executed. Like, it's fun. But when you play Carolina, what you get is 4 minutes of teams being unable to enter the zone. and unable to set up in the zone,
And
and
you might
unable
get
to do anything on the power play for 4 minutes. And they did it to the Capitals last night. And so if I do have a beef, if I do have one gripe, if I do have one, hey, why don't you let us have a little fun here, you guys? It's when Carolina does that thing on the PK where
Yeah.
they don't even allow you to get any real estate in the offensive zone, let alone try to score a goal.
You know what else can happen? They score on you shorthanded.
And on the
whether
power
it's
play.
Seth
Exciting.
Jarvis or Jordan Martinook, like Jordan Stahl, like someone might just score on you. Like that's the thing that is just so annoying about playing Carolina. First of all, they must be like, of all the NHL players, and this is a league that's blessed with incredible athletes. I remember asking Eric Tulsky about this last week on the show. Like, what do you look for in a hockey player? And he started talking about the Carolina Hurricane system and all that. And all I'm thinking to myself is like, all these guys have to be able to A, compete like Rod Brind'Amour, B, play like Rod Brind'Amour, and C, be triathletes like Rod Brind'Amour. Like, can you think of a team that expects more out of you physically? You know you must feel after playing 3 periods of man on man? Like, just how exhausted you must be. Like, I get it that visually it might not be the most appealing game, but you got to hand it to those guys. That is one of the hardest working teams in the NHL. Again, what I say about them,
Carolina Hurricanes,
they're an acquired taste. This is an acquired
do you think in the
taste.
Carolina Hurricanes gym there's a picture of Brind'Amour with the Stanley Cup standing above that brook? The shirtless picture of Brind'Amour that we've all seen. Do you think it's like a banner in the weight room for the Hurricanes?
Just like they just have like pictures of Rod Brind'Amour's body parts beside the leg press. There's a picture of his quads. So beside every machine, there's like pec deck. There's Rod's pecs.
All right, so listen. Last time we talked was on Sunday. That was before the Leafs Panthers game 4.
Yeah.
Shout out to our friend Brian Slagle, by the way, who I saw Sunday night watching the Leafs Panthers game, having a smoke outdoors in Dallas, as one tends to do. Where is your head at now as far as the Leafs go? Like, we were at a point, I was telling you, no panic until you lose at home if you're the Leafs.
Yep.
But I did caution you that there's a couple of trends I did not like in this series. One being that Bobrovsky was getting better as the series went on, and the other being that the Panthers were panthering and just like bludgeoning people. So and those two things continued unabated in Game 4.
Do you not get the feeling that this is no longer just about what's on the ice, but what's in between the ears? We keep saying, "Oh, look at these situations where Toronto Maple." But that's the thing. We keep saying that this team is so different, right? Oh, look at this. They would have folded here. Oh, they would have folded there. But now this is like real stakes. All of a sudden now they were up 2-0, and now it's the best 2 out of 3. And the Florida Panthers, just like that second period on Friday, was dominant, and the game on Sunday, the Florida Panthers were dominant. All of a sudden now there's like legitimate seeds of doubt. And what comes along with that is, okay, the seeds of doubt are going to dovetail with the consequences of all this if the Maple Leafs now fold. They have this talent to beat the Florida Panthers. That's not in doubt. I really do wonder how much the Maple Leafs are looking back and saying, oh, we just squandered a great performance by Joe Woll. We can't do that anymore. Like, that was a great game by Joseph Woll. Leafs had no business being in that game early at all, but they were because of their goaltender. That's why I wonder now, okay, now is the mental test. Now is the mental test here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We keep saying all along, oh, it's a different team, it's a different team. Now, all of a sudden, this is like legit adversity, even though nobody's lost serve. No one should be in trouble because no one's lost at home. But it sure doesn't feel that way for the Maple Leafs. What do you think?
I think the Panthers are like the classic Pixar movie Monsters, Inc., where the monsters would collect the fear and the screams of young children as they jump out of their closets at night in order to like power their cities in Monster World.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers are powered by the frustration, by the tension, by the anxiety, by the consternation that they create in the minds and the hearts of their opponents. And I think we're at that point in the series where they've created that. They've created this they've planted that seed, and a toxic tree has sprung from the ground in the minds of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really thought the Leafs had this, and I know that like part of this also is Austin Matthews being hurt and not being able to exert his will on the series at all, and Stolarz going out. Like Walls played well, but Stolarz was kind of having a magical run. So there's a lot of other factors at play, but at the core of the series right now, and I hope I'm wrong because I really felt quite good about this Leafs team and felt that it could be the one that gets over the hump. But at this point, it's kind of like the Panthers vampirically feasting on the anxiety and the tension that's inherent and the frustration too. And so for how many hit them high, hit them hards can we have in a row from the Panthers without any repercussion? It's all there for the Panthers, and this is what they do to teams, and they're doing it to the Leafs right now.
What did you make of Matthew Tkachuk and William Nylander on the benches? I mean, it happens all the time. The fact, here's the thing that I do wonder about. If Tkachuk does anything, if you're like anything like sort of borderline that could be, maybe it's suspension, maybe it's not, does that go into the, does that become one of the determining factors about premeditation?
Oh, that's a great question, because I think one of the most nebulous things about player safety, and I'm a defender of player safety. I think they do a pretty good job more often than not. But one of the real nebulous things is how they factor in intent. Yep. And intent seems like such an important thing, and sometimes intent's easy. Guy skates from one end of the ice to the other to hit somebody. We saw the Kadri suspensions. When he was with Leafs, there was intent in the distance traveled, for example. When it comes to like calling your shot, like Tkachuk did with Nylander, if something happens, God forbid, you have to figure they're going to factor it in, but you don't know for sure. But when it comes to this sort of thing, we referenced me being a Devils fan earlier. You're asking the wrong guy. I'm the guy who would rewind the VHS tape just to see Scott Stevens say to the Detroit bench, "You're next."
You're next.
After the Kozlov hit. It's hockey, baby.
It's hockey. All right, a couple of minutes with you left here. I want to get to, this is always fun with you, and I think we have a question that's right up your alley here. Time now for the Crispy Inbox. Presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer.
Yeah.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Why is Mr. Public Pain in our chat referencing Edie Brickell? More on that in moments.
And the New Bohemians?
Yeah, remember them?
What I am is what you are, or what?
Great video, great single. Haven't heard the last of them. Anyway, it is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands, folks. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp with a Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website. It's in the link in the show description, and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy. One of my favorite things that Zach does for this email is he puts the whole thing on the screen where you really have to squint to see the question or the comment. Zach, what do we have in the Crispy Inbox today? I know, very grandpa of me, I know. There it is again!
Well, you'll like this
one.
No,
it's not squinting. It's like, it literally is an eye chart. Like, there's so many friggin' words. I don't blame you for this.
Sorry, guys.
Glasses. All right, what do you got, Zach?
And it's like green on white. Like, it's like a...
Yeah. I probably could have come up with something better. Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
I was listening to Jeff pontificate on the youth we're seeing the officials today and about the speed and skating ability officials need. One point he made was that officials have to be on the ice for a full 60 minutes and never get to come off the ice. So that brought to my mind the question of, what about having 2 lines of officials? That way they can swap shifts and be fresher. You don't need another bench for them. Just have them go in and out of the penalty boxes, even if you don't have 2 full lines. Maybe just an extra referee, an extra linesman, so you can rotate the ones on the ice. What do you think, Josh?
First of all, the visual of having a referee or a linesman sitting in the penalty box is just too delicious for me not to even just entertain this for 1 minute. But my first thought is
that's why I had to ask.
It's a great one. So who submitted that one? That's a really cool question. I love like
That's from Josh.
Josh, great job. My first thought is like, yeah, that visually would look cool, Wish, but second of all, not a chance because that's an extra layer of salary. Thank you very much.
I like this question for a few reasons. First of all, it's a classic MVSW
It's a good one.
mind trip when it comes to hockey. Like trying to break down the game and thinking about ways to improve it that may be quite untraditional. So I appreciate the question.
No.
Second thing is, I like the idea of the officials being on the ice watching the game. Because I think one of the problems with trying to like line change ref crews is, there's a challenge on Top Chef where one person starts the meal and then they have to tag out. And then somebody who's been blindfolded has to come in and continue to cook the meal, but they don't know anything that's happened. They have to kind of figure out what's going on based on the mise en place. And I feel like if you had referees come from the back onto the ice, not having really been experiencing the game, it could really interrupt the flow of things because they don't know about this guy that got away with the penalty in the first period. They don't know about the narrative between two players that have been barking at each other the entire time. So the idea that they're watching the game is kind of intriguing. But overall, like, I'm not sure if you need this for the first 60, but the idea that maybe you give these guys a break in a multiple overtime game. Maybe you start overtime with a new crew.
But the thing,
that's not a bad idea.
Until though we see like evidence of officials like being like horribly out of place, like that's the thing. The only point that I was trying to make about officials with this one at some point last week was we don't see the guys with the barrels anymore skating around. Like go back and look at games from the 70s and the 60s, and you're kind of watching a lot of officials just sort of waddle around the ice. Like those guys are gone and never coming back. Right? Like you need to be torn up like a bad report card now to be able to officiate in the NHL because your cardio's got to be great. You got to be strong. Linesmen got to break up fights and stuff. Like they're in good shape. They're in position. I just don't see the need for it right now because it's not as if like we have officials with their tongues hanging out after 60 games. Like they're fine. The only point that I was trying to make is like, well, we don't, give these guys a pat on the back. Like they're in awesome shape and I don't see them out of position in any consistent basis. So I don't think that there's a problem. I do wonder about your point about multiple overtimes, but I just don't hear anyone from the Officials Association complaining about it.
So this is probably a discussion for the off season or a day when we're not like 10 minutes away from ending the show. But there has been a concerted effort by the NHL to recruit athletes versus officials. They're looking for guys that used to play. They're looking for guys that are young, in shape, speedy.
Yes.
It's no longer looking for the person who might be the best referee. They're looking for the best athlete that also referees. And if depending on who you talk to, it's had a deleterious effect about the quality of officiating in the league.
Yes.
But to your point, so these guys are in the best shape they've ever been in.
That's a really good. Like I always wondered, like what you do. Like if you have someone who'd be a really excellent official, but can't keep up with the play, then there's no job. Then there's no job there. Like the baseline right away is, can you keep up with the play for 3 periods? Because if you can't, you can be the best official in the world at a lower level, and that's great. But if you can't make the transition to the NHL and up and down the ice, up and down the ice, up and down the ice, and break up fights and pick up pucks and pick up gloves and all these other types of things for 60 minutes with a break twice, then you're not even going to get a chance. But you know what? But hang on. I do see your point about one thing specifically, and that is over the last 10 years, there have been a lot of veteran officials that have left the game or they've been skated out because they just can't. So there's a lot of younger officials now in the game than there ever have been.
I'll push back on this a little bit. We got 4 guys out there. Like you don't have to be speed skating from one end to the other when you have 4 guys out there. And the other thing too is like I will take the slower official if you can look at a net and see a puck go in versus some of these guys that stand right there and say no goal despite the puck having gone in the net. Like give me a little bit older and slower with better eyes than some of the guys that are in the league right now.
The thing is, older and slower isn't going to get in the position that you need to be in to see that puck go in the net. You'd be trailing the play too much.
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if you're in position and you can't do the job. Like that's my point with some of the people that are in this league right now. Like they've clearly hired athletes. They've tried to make them officials. And guess what? Some of the better officials that are.
So how would you do it then?
Hold on. We have really good referees and this has been what's been told to me by people that are in the referee business. We have really good referees at lower levels who don't necessarily fit the template of what the NHL is looking for right now, which is, better athletes, ex-players that may not necessarily know the rule book and may not necessarily do the job as well as the other guys, but they're what they're looking for physically. And again, the state of officiating in the NHL every single night in the regular season, sometimes in the playoffs, not exactly a fan favorite, and there's probably reasons for that.
I'll ask you the same question. We've been doing this for how many years now? Do you expect officials to be better at their job than players are at theirs?
Yes.
I don't.
Because I assume officials, by and large, should be smarter than players, if I'm being honest.
No, there's no, you know what I'm saying, though? Like, there's like smart, and then there's hockey smart. I have not seen the perfect player, so I don't expect the perfect official. I just don't. But then this is like the oldest argument we've ever had. You and I see this completely different. Completely different. I'm fine with mistakes in the game if they happen. Fine with it. And I think that until I see a perfect hockey player, and there are going to be some officials that are like the hockey equivalent of Nick Lidstrom, and then there are going to be other officials that are the equivalent of insert whomever player 735 is in the NHL. No, anyhow,
I'm just happy we have a robust replay system now to pick up the fact that
slow down the game even more. So we can stand around and.
Give me your 1 minute on that kicked goal the other night. By the way, I was curious about that.
Took too long.
Okay.
Took way too long. But don't forget, I'm also the guy that wants to make it fair to kick pucks in the net.
Yeah, me too.
But
I was just funny. I was just telling my wife about that. About like I was describing the play to her, and I was saying like Merrick and I were always just like we're all for by any means necessary scoring in this league, except for the idea of like people tap dancing with Ginzu knives on their feet around a goalie as he's sprawled out in the crease. Like we don't want that to happen, right? But kick pucks like this, first of all, this ain't a kick, and then second of all, like I don't have any problem with the way that Petrick played that thing. My point, though, real quick, was that if you go by the letter of the law, kick puck deflection off a goalie stick, it's spelled out in the rule book that it should be no goal. So I thought Scott Arniel had beef on that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I thought what he was doing wasn't an attempted shot on goal.
He's trying to kick it to his stick.
He was trying to either kick it to his stick or kick it to the slot. Is what I thought he was like. Keep it hot, get it to the slot. Keep it hot, get to the slot. That's what I thought he was doing with that one.
Get it to the slot. All right.
It's kind
there you
of
go,
sexy time. Sexy time for you to wrap up the show here, Greg.
Hey, Chad, Ace here.
Hey, hon, I'm coming home. Start stretching. Jeff just said something on the podcast.
Oh, God. Ken Holland, real quick. What'd you think?
It makes the next Edmonton LA series even juicier all of a sudden.
Does it. Boy, does it.
I to be honest with you, I thought that I really thought that Ken Holland was going. I thought that Edmonton was going to be like the last sort of the last hurrah for Ken Holland, and that he was going to peace out. But I guess like I always compliment players that are, and we've talked about Peter Forsberg like this, like drag me off the ice. Like I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep competing. Some guys are still wired just to keep on competing in their own way, and I think most managers that you ask who aren't managing now would die for a chance to get back in, because just because there's not a job for you doesn't mean that all of a sudden your competitive juices are completely gone. My question is though still, where are more young managers coming from at this point? The thing about the NHL is, Wish, in the last 20 years, I want to say, we've seen something interesting happen here. And that is, when you and I were watching hockey as kids, the general managers were in their 60s and the coaches were in their 50s. Now, managers are generally in their 50s and coaches are in their 40s. Players on the ice have gotten younger, as have coaches, as have general managers. That's not the case in this situation. But your thoughts on Holland and LA?
I was surprised too that he's going to take a GM gig, like because he had been mentioned in so many places, the Islanders, the Sabres among them, as being the president, and then bringing in a younger GM as sort of running the day to day. But if if what's motivating Kenny, besides like geography and money, is the chance to win one more, I mean, of the choices of let's say the choices are the Islanders, Buffalo, and the Kings. Like it's obviously the Kings, right? So
yeah, close.
From that aspect, it kind of makes sense, and from that aspect where the runway is short with Doughty and Kopitar. I mean, like Fiala and Kempe are right in their prime. Like they're gonna have to win real soon if they're gonna win. And so, like, if that's the modus operandi, and you want to bring Kenny Holland in, who, you know, in the span of 5 years, brought the Oilers to one win away from winning the Cup, like, more power to you. Why not? He's great. He's a great mind in hockey.
Not that I think that you're doing something just to get over the Edmonton Oilers hump. But, and I was just on with Tyler Yaremchuk a couple of seconds ago before this program, and we're throwing this idea around. If you want to really make it, LA's loading up to beat the Oilers. I think that Jim Hiller's probably going to be fine here, but if he's not, Jay Woodcroft.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Woodcroft and Holland against the Oilers. Come on.
Mm-hmm. So hockey nepotism alert. Sound the siren. Obviously, Robitaille plays for Holland in Detroit, wins his only cup as a player with Kenny as the GM. Jim Hiller, 1 year as an assistant in Detroit before going to Toronto under Ken Holland. So there is a little bit of the hockey nepotism. I know this guy type deal happening with Hiller that maybe keeps him in that job despite one of the most atrocious coaching jobs I've ever seen in the playoffs against Edmonton in the first round.
The thing about Hall, I mean, anyone in Edmonton knows this. I mean, in Detroit, you had no real choice because why would you want to change anything? But Ken's strong suit has always been, or at least his lead card has always been patience. Mm-hmm. Like he does not come in and say, like, all right, my team now, I got to get my thumbprint all over this one. That ain't Ken Holland. It's never been Ken Holland. You could understand why it wasn't in Detroit. Why would you change an all-star team? But it wasn't as if he came into Edmonton breaking stuff and saying, I'm putting my stamp on all of this. If anything, it was the opposite.
What a fun little notion. The Isle of Misfit Oilers. Kenny Holland as the GM, Jay Woodcroft as the coach. You got Warren Fogle there. What other cast-offs from Edmonton can you rope in for that team?
Mike Smith come back.
You trade for Broberg and Holloway from the Blues. Bring them aboard.
Dude, who can Holland offer sheet now with the Edmonton?
I mean, Bouchard.
Bouchard.
Oh my God.
Bouchard. Yeah, like that's the one, right? Like that's the one.
He just comes in just to completely assault the Edmonton Oilers. The island of misfit toys.
Does Connor consider Ken Holland like a grandfather? Is that his enticement to leave Edmonton and sign with LA?
Go to the Los Angeles Kings, but just like Gretz did, just like Gretz.
That's right.
Go from Edmonton to Los Angeles. All right. Well, I think enough damage has been done here. This is lovely. We'll talk in 7 days. Enjoy the action tonight, and safe travels to Washington. You be good.
Thank you so much. Thanks, chat.
Chat's good. Chat's always good. We only got one game tonight. We got to wrap this thing up here. The Sheet, powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel is proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. And the big news, as you can tell by our headline today, the return of Miro Heiskanen. Again, Peter DeBoer, you know what to do. The Finnish Five. Please make history. Heiskanen with Esa Lindell. Keep your Granlund, Hins, Rantanen forward unit together, and we're off to history. What do you make of this one? Where are you at on, I really want the Winnipeg Jets to hang in there because I really have a soft spot in my heart for Winnipeg, this team, and their fans. But part of me is just saying this could just be the turning point here with Heiskanen coming back for the Dallas Stars to start steamrolling. He's one of the best defenseman in the entire NHL and has been so for a number of years here now. I just wonder, Zach. But again, soft spot for the Jets.
That's where I'm at as well. Two things. One, does not bode well for Winnipeg here being on the road, given their goaltender's road history. And two, you're adding Miro Heiskanen to a team that has not just found a way to survive and just stay afloat, but being unbelievable to this point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that defense in Dallas, I don't know where you were at. I didn't trust them going into that this year. I picked Colorado in the first round. I thought the D was going to be a problem. No Heiskanen. I didn't like the depth that they had there.
Yeah.
Every single guy in that Dallas D stepped up and elevated their game. Has been beyond replacement level. Like, it's just taken that next step. And now you add Miro Heiskanen. And those guys who were playing that much more than they should have been in that roll up, they're going to get bumped down. I'm like, oof, my God. Like, I just feel like they're just going to be one of those ones that doesn't get deterred by him coming back and thrown into the mix. Like, it's not, it doesn't give me that vibe. And then we're going to come back and you're going to be like, look at this idiot. Look at what he said yesterday. But you're going to come, I don't think it's one of those ones where it's like, oh, wow, you threw that guy in there. It really threw off the rhythm of stuff. Like, I don't think that's going to happen with Dallas.
Yeah, I don't think so either. As we wrap up here, remind everybody what the title of the show is again today.
Miroculous comeback. Yeah.
I'm going to be laughing.
Miro on the ice. I wish I had that one. That was really good, Jeff.
No, you know which
really
one,
bad, but really
you know which
good.
one, and Vic and I were laughing about this in Florida. You know which one I know secretly you wish you had?
Mitch.
Shots 8-1. I know deep down inside I got 99 problems, but the Shots 8-1 is one that you really, really wish you had in your hip pocket. That you could trademark Philly. I know you do that.
No. Now, if it was my choice, I would never hear that joke again.
Which makes me want to say it even more. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever the Shots are 8-1, please take a picture, take a screen cap, send it to your buddy Jeff, and tag Zach Phillips.
Can I ask you something quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Before you brought up with Wish the whole Tkachuk thing. I want to ask you like something not related to that. Do you not think that Nylander was the wrong guy of the four for Tkachuk to say that to? And I'm not saying because like, oh, Nylander is going to go out there and do something nuts to Tkachuk or like somebody else. I just think Nylander is the guy that's unfazed by it. I just feel like he probably could have gotten somebody else's head. I don't think it's going to work on Nylander. Maybe I'm wrong, but I wanted to know what you thought.
I think Nylander was just the guy that happened to be there. Like, that could have been anybody. Yeah. If Austin Matthews was right there, he would have said it to Matthews. If Mitch Marner would have been there, he would have said it. If Holmberg were there, he would have said it to him. I just think that Nylander just happened to be there. Like, honestly, like, do you not think that if it was somebody else on the bench, Matthew Tkachuk would have said, "Oh, can you move out of the way, please, so I can physically threaten Nylander down the bench? Like, guys, can you move away? I want to do no, yeah, 88, yeah, no, I want him. I just think that Matthew just didn't care, and whoever was going to be standing there was going to be like, "You next game." Didn't matter who was there. Could have been Carlton the Bear, and he would have said the exact same thing, like, "You next game." What? I'm the Bear. Mark Savard. I'm assistant coach. I'm the guy that celebrates goals. My coach gives me crap.
Yeah.
I'm not even getting on the ice, Matt. Like, geez, calm down. That's what I think.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it could have been anybody. Thanks to Rick Washensky, as always, for stopping by. MVS Tuesdays are always a blast. Thanks to everybody who was in the chat today, watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite, or as we've talked about before, your least favorite podcast platform. Maybe you don't like it, but damn it works really well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We are back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern for The Sheet. No idea what we're doing yet, but we'll be here with something. How's that for a promise of performance? Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're back tomorrow. Enjoy Winnipeg and Dallas tonight. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.